Wanted to talk to you today about the strap drill. It's a great teaching tool for when you're on the ergometer to give you some excellent feedback as to how you're rowing. Not really sure exactly when or where I was exposed to this drill, but I can tell you if you use it consistently and you're very mindful, very intentional on the usage of it, I think you'll find that it really provides a lot of feedback. Most coaches liberate something that they heard from somewhere else. If you start to scour the internet and you find, for example, Bill Manning has a great video with U.S. rowing, and he will repeat something that he said he heard, which is, practice doesn't make permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. And so really trying to be intentional about your practice on the erg. Otherwise, you've got the opportunity to go the other way and really reinforce a lot of bad habits. A year or so ago, I heard something from, I was at the All-American rowing camp in DeLand, Florida, and Mark Wilson, the director. We were reviewing some video and we were talking about things, and he had a great analogy about how things there's things that lead to something else happening before it actually happens. So for example, when you don't just fall, you fall because you tripped, and you tripped because you forgot to tie your shoelaces. And you didn't tie your shoelaces because you were in a hurry to get out the door because you didn't set an alarm the night before, causing you to run late. So there's a sequence of things that happen before they actually get to the point of happening that usually causes the bad performance. A lot of this part of this drill is to reinforce the recovery. A lot of people will just think of a recovery as a time to rest. And it's true, it's what it is. Also, when you're in a boat, you're thinking about the recovery as what you do with your body and how you do it so that you're not slowing the boat down. So terms like rushing the slide, not getting to the catch too soon, things like that. But I would add that there's another part that a lot of people aren't mindful about, and that's that we try to tell athletes to be the longest, best posture, most powerful version of themselves. But how one gathers and prepares the body during the recovery to be that is critical. We want it to be mindful, we want it to be thoughtful, but we don't want it to be rigid. I think of like Jell-O. Jell-O holds its shape, but it's relaxed. It's both. Flan, whatever you want to pick as a dessert that's gelatinous, if you will. So what we want to do with the strap drill is we want to reinforce the preparation that needs to take place of the body. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of ideas with regards to this. However, feel free to apply it however you see fit. So get the strap first. The first thing that you'll want to do is to get a boat strap. You could use really any sort of mechanism. What you don't want is something that's elastic that's going to change its length. A boat strap is nice and adjustable. There are plenty of them around your boathouse. What you may also want to do as time goes on is, if you get it more specific to your size, maybe you keep that boat strap and trim it to where it fits you specifically. So with regards to the boat strap, what you first want to do is thread it through your handle. If you've got this is a Model C erg, but it's been retrofitted with this newer ergomic handle. it doesn't really matter. Some people like to, on this model, want to thread it through here, through the U-bolt, and some people will thread it through the handle itself. If you've got an older model erg, it's probably only going to be through the U-bolt here. So that's where I'll do it here today. So first of all, you'll thread it through the U-bolt, okay? And then what you'll do is you'll close the loop with the strap, okay? So you just put the strap through the other end here like you're strapping a boat, okay? So then comes the tricky part. So then once you have the strap through the handle, you will want to loop it around the seat. So here's the loop that I created, and we're going to adjust this loop as we go along, okay? So what you do is you take the loop and this is excess, you take the loop and you put it between your legs and you loop it around the seat like this, okay? And then the buckle is going to end up being at a distance somewhere between your seat and the handle. So once I have this looped around onto the seat, then all I have to do is just sit down. And I'm going to sit on the strap. Then what I'm going to do, and now I may have to lift my butt cheek a little bit in order to, when I make my adjustment. So I know that this is going to be too far, and I want you to notice I'm already working on my positioning. I'm going to be pretty close to this if I can, what I'm going to go for is my rocked over body position. Some people call it body over. I call it rocked over. It's making sure that our back is what would be normal, good posture, kind of elongated with that sensation that if somebody had their hand on your head, you'd be kind of pushing up through their hand. Doesn't have to be hyperextended and concave in the low back. We just want it to be tall. And so then when I'm talking about posture, I'm going to try to be perpendicular, is that if I were rocking over, that posture is staying tall and I'm just pivoting here. And it's the same posture that if I were to try to stand up out of this position, I wouldn't want to try to lunge forward. That's telling me I don't have good core strength, good mobility. It's this posture position, and then I'm just kind of levitating right off of the seat. See how I would kind of stand up right out of that? So if I'm sitting here, that's the position that I want. Now we're going to show you how your hamstrings may limit you a little bit of that, so we can soften up our hamstrings to be able to do that. But that's the posture position that I'm going for. So if I were going for that position, it's going to be the space between my handle. When I'm in that posture position, my arms are fully extended. Now when I'm sitting on the erg, the position that I want when I'm sitting here is going to be, I want to be on the most sternward side. If you're in a boat, you know what that means, the back, facing the back of the boat or towards the fan. You want to be in the position that such that you're on that side, and the point of which the edge of the seat, the sternward side or the back side of the seat, or not the back side, but the front side of the seat, would dig into where your hamstrings and your glutes match each other, come together right there. That's kind of the position that you want to be. So you want to be in that nice tall position there. All right? And then, so I'm going to go ahead and get this length here, and I want to get the buckle in a position that's going to be equidistant between the seat and the handle, and you'll see why. So in this position, I'm getting close to the length that I'm looking for, and I can tell already I'm going to need to shorten this up. So I'm going to shorten it up a little bit. And here's what I was saying earlier about all this excess length because I grabbed a long boat strap. Eventually you may want to trim it, but if you're sharing an erg with somebody, I mean, obviously maybe not ideal in today's world of sharing the erg strap, but you may want to make a line on this as you become more flexible. This mark may change, and I encourage you to work on your mobility and flexibility to get that to change, because we want to be the longest version of ourselves that's in the greatest posture and flexibility position without getting weak and noodly. We don't want to be in this position, what I've heard referred to as pooping dog. There's no power in that. We want to be, the butt slides back a little bit, we're rocked over, we're ready to take a big power position, just like if we were in a deadlift or in a squat, we'd be in that power position. So we're getting closer to now this distance between the two. I can tell this is probably still a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust it, shorten it up a little bit more. I want to make sure that that buckle is going to be about halfway to 2/3 away from my seat towards the handle. All right, so now what I want is I can go ahead and put my feet on the foot stretchers and be in this power position here. So it's still a little long. Okay, adjust the camera here. So now I want to adjust it a little bit more, and I'm going to shorten it up. Again, every time I shorten it up, I'm going to need to kind of readjust where the buckle is relative to my hands. Now, for a lot of people, finding this position is a little bit challenging with regards to how flexible am I in this position. If your knees are completely flat, you'll notice if I'm hyperextended knees like this, if I try to rock over, I can only get about here. But if I do what I call knee pop right here, I've got a little bit more rock over in me. Now, here's the next sensation. As I started to rock out, there came a point where I couldn't rock out anymore. As I was trying to rock over, I was rocking down. And that's because my strap is too short. We're gonna see how that feedback works later. So I'm gonna actually give myself just a little bit of length. And now, with the chain in the middle, up here, you've got a rectangle, the cage, where the chain goes in and out. Height-wise, I want that chain to be not at the top, not at the bottom, but right in the middle. So I'm in that position with knees popped, butt, when I rock over, the butt kind of rolls back. I actually got a little bit more length in there, I think. So I just extended it out. And so when I'm at this position, the goal is my buckle, is my strap taut, and I can see that buckle. Now, if you're a beginner and you're rowing at lower rate, you can be at a position where your hands from the release point, they flow out completely, and the strap's gonna be loose, not taut, and then when you rock over, you hit that taut point. And I kind of called rock over, it's rock over body angle with a little bit of knee pop, so I can get the final bit of that length. At higher rates, or depending on how you're being technically taught, a lot of coaches will say, I don't really care how you come out of bow, and have the hands halfway out, then bring in the shoulders, so long as they clear the knees. You could have basically this position where knees are coming up, arms aren't completely out, body angle isn't fully prepared, and you're actually coming out like a soft, wet noodle, so long as you get it, you nail it by half slide. So this is all kind of what I call squingy and noodly. And there's a whole rowing philosophy school that says that's okay, and I'm starting to lean that way in my coaching philosophy. So long as by half slide, and that's going to be the position where my quads and my shins are at 90 degrees. So we'll call this roughly 90 degrees. That by that position, I want my posture. My back is flat, my butt is back, my chain is extended, the strap is taut, and I can see the buckle there. This excess, I can just kind of loop that around my handle until I'm ready to trim it at some point. Okay, so there I'm in that good posture, power position. Now, this is basically the setup position. So I don't really care how I got there, and you can talk to your coach and decide how you get there. But at half slide, most coaches will probably agree that we want the body, everything above the hips, to look exactly the same going into the catch as it did coming out of the catch. Like, we could go backward and forward with video, and we couldn't ever really tell, except maybe the suspension of body weight muscles. We couldn't really see the difference. Some coaches might also have a little bit of hands lower to simulate what happens on the boat or in the boat, and then have a little unweighting of the hands going into the catch, kind of traveling the hypotenuse of a right triangle to kind of come up, and so that they're inserting the blade while still traveling to the stern. That may be true. I do think it's a little bit of a challenge to do with the strap drill because it kind of takes away from that overall length that we were looking at. But nonetheless, by half slide, you're in your posture position. Okay, shoulders are hanging loose, elbows are loose. You've got that hand just kind of hanging there. Again, referencing Kevin Sauer, who I saw recently on a U.S. rowing video as well, and Bill Manning with regards to this, slotting the hand hanging over nice and relaxed. So we're in that posture position, okay, and we're at half slide. So now the idea would be, I'm going to travel into the catch with my strap taut and come all the way into my catch position. My heels might be slightly up. The more you can work on mobility, the better, so that you can get to the heels sooner through the drive. But now I've got shins about perpendicular. The back is relatively flat. I've got a little bit of roundedness. Back's a little stiff today. But that would be roughly the position, so that I can go in and out, back to half slide with my strap nice and taut. This should not change at all. That's the idea. Now, anytime that we see the buckle sag, that's an indicator. So here's, for example, if I'm at half slide and I'm coming in the catch and my buckle sags here, we automatically know that at that point my butt is moving faster than my hands are at that point. And what we see happen when people are rowing is, if they lose after half slide, if the butt starts to out accelerate the hands, their tendency is to do this maneuver. The heels are coming up, the butt's getting too close to the heels, and the body angle I once had established, I've lost. And going back to that analogy that Mark Wilson mentioned, is what we're often see out of this is the athlete comes in, sits up like this, they take all the weight off the legs, they open up the back, and they're already moving through the stroke, and only to about here do they get any pressure on the legs. And then they are all kind of finishing together and kind of falling on the coccyx, on the back, on the tailbone, instead of up nice and tall. So the preparation that you get by getting out there at half slide and hitting that taut strap and taking that in, you can't open up that early. Because let's say I've got the vent, I'm gonna move the vent up to like an 8. I can't possibly open up too soon against that. I can't come up there, it's too heavy to kind of lift my back. I'm forcing myself to stay on the legs and really delay opening that back. Strap comes in, I'm looking down, making sure the strap stays taut. I'm not reaching like this, flat back, and I'm going in and out with a nice taut strap. All right, and I want to maintain that, so I can also look down at my buckle at the beginning of my drive and say, what did I do? Did they go in and out together? Looking down at the buckle, 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 buckle. And then maybe by about half slide, somewhere, hopefully about 2/3 slide, somewhere in here, I still have the body angle, and somewhere in here, we're starting to see the knees begin to flatten and the body open. Kind of in this little world right here. Okay? So the goal is taut, 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 and swinging that body open. So long as I get it all by half slide, boom. You could give yourself a half slide pause if you wanted to just establish that. Boom. I'm at half slide, travel, 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 boom. All right? So, great indicator. Notice I can row regular rowing, okay? Gentlemen may occasionally find if the buckle's too low and you're getting in this position, it could come in with enough force and speed. It might hit you in a place that's a little uncomfortable. So you might have to modify your buckle to be a little bit higher towards the handle. But I like to put it as close to being in the middle as possible, because it's kind of like a leader or a weight when you're fishing. The more it sits in the middle, or the more that it's in the middle, the more that it's weighted and it's heavy and it hangs, really forces you to rock over, as opposed to if the buckle was up here. That extra weight is a great indicator. Another thing is some people will do what's called a bum shove, or shooting their slide, something like that at the catch. So that'll work on this too. You can see it against the white wall. I'm coming into the catch, and if the first thing that happens is my butt moves without the handle, I want you to notice, because that strap is taut, it pulled my hands down. Got here and pulled my hands down. I hadn't really turned on my core to be able to take the handle and the seat together as one unit. And so it's a good indicator in your hands that did I do a bum shove, or shooting the tail, or shooting the slide, whatever you call it. So here, not this, leaving the handle behind, but all one piece. Okay? And then, so here's how this can go wrong. You could have a situation where an athlete of hours of time is coming out here and artificially raising the hands too high and making the strap taut. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you can kind of see what I'm saying. Is at this point, I could have a taut strap, but it's not all of the body angle I could have had if I get my hands back on plane, going in and out of that triangle, or the rectangle, where the chain's coming out of. This is that flat back position I was looking for, but I could sit up a lot more and have the handle up, and I never really got to my full rock over potential. So there's a tendency that people could get up here And they could even do the same thing coming into the catch. They could bring their butt too close to their heels and just raise the hands up and go, hey, my strap is taut. But the reality is, if they had their hands back on plane, again, an equidistance between, in that rectangle there, that space, they would quickly realize that they brought their butt too close to their heels. And that's not what we're looking for. Because we're looking for, in that position, the same thing that happens in a squat. You know, when we get into that position, we want the athlete to get rocked over by sliding the butt back. Okay, we're not leaning forward to get down into a squat. Rather, we've turned on our core and we're sliding the butt back. And then, if you can see my feet, the idea is that I'm still, my toes are wiggling and I'm back on my heels and I'm in this posture position. And that amount of rock over should look exactly of what you see on the erg. I got my core turned on. You could come by and punch me in the side. My hips are just slightly lower than my knees. And that distance that exists in this position, like this distance between my butt and my heels, this should look the same than when I'm on an erg. That same distance. I mean, I've gotten closer to you now, so it doesn't quite look the same. But take a ruler, take something you can measure with, be on the more sternward side of the seat, get into a full catch position, shins parallel, heels maybe slightly up, and this distance between the two, between my butt and my heels, should be the same that I had before when I was squatting. And that amount of body angle should be similar, right there. And if I were to hold that body angle position and just take my feet out, trying to be pretty similar to it, take my feet out, slide the seat up, that amount of body angle is the same one that I had when I squatted, and I can come off the seat. They're exactly the same. So use those two together. Find good videos about squatting. Find good videos about posture, about turning the core on before the catch. If you're not sure of what those videos are, you can always send me an email and I can point you in that direction. Use this drill. It's great. Again, you could put a piece of electrical tape on yours to mark where yours is at, or a line, or something that you could adjust as you become more and more flexible and more mobile. And I also find that it's a good indicator too. If you're having a challenge rocking over in a good, strong position, work on your flexibility. Work on your psoas muscles and your hip flexors to be able to get in those positions. Work on your glutes. Work on all these parts that allow you to be able to rock over. And the more that you do your rowing like that, the better. Your abdominals are going to be huge. That core strength to be able to go in and out of that catch position, in that posture position, and waiting as long as possible till we're back to this position with the knees, and then flatten the knees and swing. It's the same thing as part of a deadlift, right? This power position that once we get the bar here through the knees, the shoulders are slightly in front of the bar, and once we get that bar past the knees, we're not necessarily thinking about just standing up. We're thinking about driving the legs so that the hips come from being back here, coming forward, and thrust the hips, squeezing the glutes while we stand up. Same thing in a deadlift, same thing on the erg. We want to see that hip opening happen when those knees are about done. And that's the time that your buckle then is allowed to go slack. So take some time to play with it. What you should also see in this is the quality of your force curve. If you're not used to rowing with a force curve, I highly recommend you row with a force curve. And you should see better and better force curve applications, less humps and dents. If you're interested, you can call me or text me or whatever. We could put out a video about force curves. There's a gazillion of them out there by people who do a lot better than me. But it would be a really good thing for you to row with the force curve, row with a strap. When CrossFit was just coming online, I heard Greg Glassman say this, and I totally believe it. You hear rowers say, well, coach, do you want me to row well or do you want me to row hard? And your goal is to row as hard as you can up until the point that you technically lose it. Because that's what efficiency is all about. You're trying to maximize the energy that you're spending out of your body to produce the greatest amount of wattage and power here. So, coach, do you want me to row well? Do you want me to row hard? The answer is yes. He would say, if we're going to go to lunch, do you want me to meet you at the right place at the right time? And the answer is yes. So I tell my athletes, you get to row at as high a rate as possible up until the point that you have a crappy force curve. And that's because as ratings go up, we tend to see people being less thoughtful during their recovery because everything's coming at them. Everything's happening so quickly. I mean, the time that you have at an 18 to fully separate out, to fully rock over, and to travel with your core turned on and your back flat and your chest up and you're ready to take it is much different than at a 32. Everything's happening a lot quicker. And yet, even if you break down stuff at an Olympic level, you're still seeing that by half slide, most of the quality crews out there are done with their preparation by half slide. And now they're just traveling that last little bit to get into to the catch. And they're turning their cores on, they're getting ready to lift that weight in a controlled, gentle way. So they've been coming this way on the ballet, getting ready for the fist fight that is the drive. But they've got to do it thoughtfully. So the strap is going to help you that as the rating goes up, you're saying to yourself by half slide, bam, I got there. So throw in some pauses, and when you start to see as you start to bring up ratings and you see your force curve start to break down, use that strap and say to yourself, even without a pause, at the half slide position, I nailed my strap, it was taut, my buckle was solid, I wasn't raising my hands prematurely to make a taut buckle, and I went all the way into the catch and I came all the way out of the catch after having changed direction, and I got to half slide, maybe even try to squeeze it to about 2/3 slide before I ever thought about opening the body and swinging the back, okay? So enjoy. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll put my email and phone number on here as well. And stay safe. As much as important as this is to try to practice indoors and not learn bad habits and get better technically, it's just rowing. It's just rowing. We've got a lot of other big stuff going on. So please stay safe. And we're all in this together.